the 911. Somebody just broke into our house. We're all alone. Please help us. Is somebody in the house now? I don't know, but I just said the word. Please help us. Please, my brother's 5. Please help us. Please. Hold on 1 second, okay? I got officers in mind, okay? I'm scared. Please help us. Where's your mother and father at? My mom's working. My dad's people. Please help me. How old is your brother? 5. Please help us. Please just help us. Great tank top did you send to me? Yeah, we got officers in Mount Sinai. I'm going to stay on the phone with you, okay? Okay, please just help us, please. I'm in the closet. Is your brother in the closet with you? Yes, ma'am. All right. We ran into the closet as soon as we saw it.
That was cool, guys. I like the bump with the subscribe. Pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Had some snow days, had some ice. Hope everybody's good to go. I am comfy with the dogs in the house, here with you, your host, me, Dr. Michael Gurley, with CJTV, and supported by research scholars. Really good ones. Honestly, some good ones. And when I say good ones, I mean dedication and detail. So, CJTV, it's not a typical, what one would say, news coverage. We're not covering news. We're not covering social events. We're not covering things that are happening in the media to where you hear a host or a reporter or some guest on a TV show saying, I think, maybe, I believe, probably shoulda, coulda. No, my opinion, no, that's not what we're here for. We're here for pure academic review, sociology, CJ, psychology, presenting the problems to the world, presenting the problems in a scholarly peer review fashion, not a news media driven or opinion or I think or I feel process. Peer review, research, period, end of story. And we like to teach at the same time. Chats are open. Chats are open. Let me check these chats and make sure they are actually open. Yep, these chats are open. Let's send it out. We're on YouTube, Rumble, and X right now live. I'm monitoring Rumble and monitoring YouTube because it's a one one entity button pushing show right here. So let's get on with the actual show. The actual show tonight, as the title says, the episode 6, kind of like a case number, 0126-2006. Law enforcement, the crisis, the manpower, the recruitment, the pull, the fall, the historic perfect storm of the fall of a sociological entity known as the profession of law enforcement. Practitioners, law enforcement agencies across the globe are facing historic nationwide workforce crises. Also, the surge requirements, what are the requirements? The requirements are hard. It's not easy. Retirements, recognition, resignations. You're not going to be there forever. Got to go somewhere. You don't want to work forever. Law enforcement is the same way. It's a sociological construct. The need for law enforcement is sociologically constructed. Society's need for law enforcement. Society's need for legislative law. Who's going to enforce the legislative law? Law enforcement. 2026, 60% drop from 2020 to 2025. And it's 2026, a 60% drop in applications, a 60% drop in recruiting, a 60% drop in those that meet the requirement for law enforcement, let alone requirements coming out of organizations to where one is trying to get into law enforcement and still do not meet the requirement. The U.S. military being one of those, resulting in a 10% vacancy rate across the United States and exceedingly over 70% in the global circumference. 70% of agencies globally as well in the research that we'll get to that we discovered are reporting difficulty hiring. It drives low morale. The workforce is working. The workforce is out there, boots on the ground, doing the actual job. So the low morale, the negative public perception, the licensing competition from the private sector to law enforcement, the government entity, the federal, the state, the county, the municipality, the job itself. And we're not just talking about when we say law enforcement and the fall of manpower, the historic perfect storm of practitioners in the fields, sociology, psychology, and criminal justice. They all three tie together. So if you have practitioners in one of these fields, sociology, psychology, and law enforcement, and they're working together, especially investigations, we're going to have a whole show on investigations. It's titled, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's titled, So You Want to Be a Criminal Investigator, Detective? And it's right. Yeah, it's right. So we got one coming up. It's going to be pure academic and, life experience. Keep in mind, chats are open. Now we just started. You jump in, kick it off on the actual topics that we're talking about. The combined middle career for departures had learned, it's risen. 3.5 decrease of sworn officers over the past 2 years. 3.5. Now, I know one would say that's a low number. But when you look at the actual vetting of a person, the historical process of an agency seeking people to come to the agency, work for the agency, there is a cut period. Application pool. Now, I know some of you have read on the internet, or that was a good job, read on the internet or seen that federal agencies are receiving increases in applications. You get one agency that receives 134,000 applications in 1 year. There is a process of selection. How many are going to make it through the full process? So you got 134,000 for one agency. You might as well, statistically, mathematically, if you're looking at the turnover, by the time the officer or the agent or whatever entity that this person applies for goes through the process, the full selection, by the time they're out of training, out of field training, out of training with a field training officer, in department training, documentation training, computer training, follow-on schools for the department that the specific academy doesn't teach because this officer is going to be, assigned to a specific division. You're looking at a year to over a year. In that year, one considers the same things that society would consider. The lack of interest. Yeah. So The lack of interest for those that are qualified due to the competition level of the private sector and the law enforcement sector, those that apply, they're fewer. They're less qualified. Applicants are seeking law enforcement careers, of course, but the declining interest attracts those that do not meet the qualifications, less vetted in the process of applicant vetting, the whole cycle from picking up the pen out on the ground, working in society, doing your job. The exodus is a problem, the mass exodus, meaning officers leaving. Experienced officers 5 to 12 years are leaving for the private sector. Now, one would say, hey, how does this guy know anything about officers leaving? Believe me, those that know this guy know he knows. Officers are leaving for the private sector. Why? Money, increased money, less stress, less of an impact on the family, less of an impact on service, less of an impact on generalization of shifted priorities, political, entity, supervision, command staff, the hierarchy, the authoritarianism structure of the law enforcement agency. In the United States, 47% increase since 2022 to 2025. Now, I know it's 2026. Yeah, we're not going to count 2026. Statistics, past. That's why it's called statistics. The other key aspect of the crisis of the perfect storm of manpower suffrage, generalization. Yep, the general shift hours. Got to work. Some agencies work 12-hour shifts, 12 hours, not 8, because they simply do not have the manpower. In society, younger people, they don't want to do that. They don't want that long shift. Young people are less interested in the traditional long-term, high-stress policing model of a profession. Easy, the favorable one. That's what the youth want. This guy would be the bearer of information, but this guy teaches CJ, has CJ experience. That's what this guy hears. Those are the conversations from the developing scholars, the students. That generalization of a shift, something favoring a better work balance and life balance, a voice and policy. Well, it's law enforcement. It's a department. There's legislative structure. There's hierarchy. There's authoritarian. You're not always going to get that work balance, that voice heard, that policy change that you want. Because you're the one that applied, now you're new. That's a generalization of shift deterrence. The youth do not want that. Now, I'm not saying all youth. I'm saying a specific model of youth or construct in society. We're not arguing politics. We're not arguing any side of a, partisan level. Ask the youth yourself. Is someone truly interested in law enforcement? Well, if they are, to prevent the mass exodus of interest, have them meet a law enforcement officer. Shadow a law enforcement officer. Ask those deep questions. Get rid of the generalization of the shift in society's youth not wanting a career field that has shift work, policy, sometimes questionable work-life balance, because it's there. It's a job. You don't get to choose what you're going to do in the CJ profession. It chooses you. Dispatch calls you, chooses you. You're in the district. You're in the ward. Guess what? It's yours. Your bosses. Yeah. The hierarchy. Factors contributing to the shortage. Before go any further, remember the chats are open. I'm monitoring Rumble and YouTube. And yes, we do have moderators. So if you come in and you jump in, keep it scholarly, keep it simple. We are not a speech restrictive, but we are restrictive to dignity, politeness, and academic. That's what this live stream is here for. Other contributing factors. That perception from society, that negative public perception. Intense scrutiny, anti-police, sentiment, following the protest, following the riot, following the event, following the mass casualty event, questioning response, questioning procedure, questioning who did what agency did what agency dropped the ball. And you're always going to hear that interpretation factor, that negative public venue. Where's it coming from? It's coming from society. It's coming from those who are in the media. those who are in the social spotlight, those that are featured on the news, those that have the I think, I feel, I believe opinion. It's not credible. No validity, no reliability. Rigorous hiring process. Yes, the length of it. Right there, I would say close to the negative publicity of the public. Why? It's lengthy. It's difficult. The entrance requirements exclude a majority amount of candidates. Now, going back to the 134,000 that applied for a federal agency. And yes, that is the truth. 134,000 applied for a specific federal agency. You're not going to see 134,000 law enforcement on the street in that specific function. Excuse me, recovering from a Jack Frost snow icy illness, meaning stuffy nose, scratchy throat. The rigorous, they're not going to get there. They're not going to be accepted. The psychological background, the finance, the credit, the historical. What about the interview? What about the investigator that talks to people that know you? What about the social media inspection? Yes, the social media inspection. They're going to see your character, your integrity. Everything about the individual that is applying is going to be an open door. Everything. That agency is going to want to know everything about you. Everything that is questionable too and can be argued with credibility, validity, and reliability to enable you to become a law enforcement officer or agent or whatever the job may be. High stress. It's high stress in the selection. It's a rigorous process. And a lot of people just do not want to spend the time doing such. It could take up to a year. One doesn't go in and fill out the application or fill the application out online and submit all the documentation and then the agency's going to call you. There's a list. There's a time. There's a cutoff period. There's a review. There's a selection. The competitions for agency, pay, benefits, increase, work hours, work shift. Where's the academy? How long is the academy? Do you get a car? Do you get to go home on the weekends? Is it a 4-day academy or is it a 5-day academy? Or are there days to where we're going to be there 6 days out of the week? The competition, the high stress, the favor the better work balance. It's questionable. And in today's society, the majority of youth do not want to accept that. The majority of adults do not want to accept that. What do you think is the major majority of influence on the youth of a society? The instruction, the mentorship, the leadership. Stages. Yes, stages. The manpower fall. Modernization, recruitment. Have to use it, have to utilize it. Social media, faster hiring processes, focus on wellness-based programs. Modern, inclusive marketing, yes. Law enforcement is not old school 1940s, 1950 gumshoe anymore. It's 2026. Law enforcement has been using IT, AI, for years. And when I say years, I mean over a decade. Simple. Over decades, plural. Why? I know. I've seen it. I have done it. I've been involved with it. Modern policing techniques. Utilize what society has. Utilize what is being developed in society. Law enforcement is just not boots on the ground, having to run, jump a fence in a car. Now, the majority of it is for agencies, sheriff's department, police departments, academies. Everybody wants to go be a secret agent with the ATFBQ, NASA, CIA department. You're still going to have to go through the selection, the intensity of it. But the modernization of it is still there after the selection and meeting the requirements. Training, academy, assignment. Modernization and recruiting is going to have to be done the same way. You're not looking for Rambo or Super Cop. But for those that heard me just say that, they're not looking for Rambo or Super Cop. But your physical fitness and your mental well-being are key during the first period of that lengthy, difficult entrance requirement series. There are a lot of requirements. Stress. If you can't PT, physical train, you're stressing about PT, it's going to affect your academics. If you can't academic, you're stressed about the academics, it's going to affect the PT. One versus the other. These are just two examples. Just two. Two of the higher examples out of the statistical venue if you interview law enforcement. Those are the two higher ones. Incentives. Where are the incentives for rebuilding the force, the dissemination of labor. Where are the incentives? Opening hire bonuses. Man, I see them all day long. Higher bonus here for this city, higher bonus here for this city, and even higher bonus for lateral transfer, meaning those that are post-certified in a specific region that can transfer out of an agency and go direct into the agency, just acquaint and or go through required training for that agency. Boom, you're there. Bonuses, money. The district that I live in the United States, agencies do it all the time. You see agencies lose officers to other agencies because of the incentive of the pay, higher hiring bonuses. But the bonus is not right up front. Once everything is completed and all is satisfied, then the officer gets the bonus. Not, I just got hired on and let me get the bonus. Could be a whole year before you see that bonus. That's another deterrent. Oh, that was a false advertising. No, you'll get the bonus after you become fully vetted, certified, bona fide on both sides, whatever agency you're working for. Then the bonus. And the bonus may not be that whopping $50,000 in one check. Installments. Oh, more disappointment. The incentives have turned false. We're not happy anymore. It happens. Community engagement, improving the public perception through targeted community policing and engagement. Yes. We're not talking about what you see on the TV with specific federal agencies and immigration. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about simple policing. We're not talking about one targeted aspect of a function. That is a function. We're talking about policing as a whole, the community. Problem-oriented policing, community policing. The perception. The public doesn't trust it. Why? Because law enforcement, those that have left over the years, over the past 5 years, that affected the percentages in the United States, they're gone. Those that understood community policing, those that understood problem-oriented policing. Academy instructors, leaving too. Who's teaching the academy instructor, the train-the-trainer corps, the train-the-trainer force? Are they really teaching community engagement? Now, you see law enforcement on social media, Facebook, all these other entities, and that time for an opportunity. It's a time. It's a time for a picture. It's a time for a public shout. So before we go any further, I want to actually give a shout to cool agency, Yarbrough's Music, Memphis, Tennessee. We were having audio difficulties with some audio setup, but Yarbrough's hooked us up. There's the fly out. No, Yarbrough's is not a sponsor. It's just when one helps you help others, you help them in return. Now, audio. I didn't say for pianos or drums or, concert series lights. I just said audio. We got a new Shure mic there, and it's a whole heck of a lot better than the one we had. So next, our assistant researchers, Amanda Blankenship, Chloe Hensley, Dylan McDonald, all for this show. Now, for those of you that would ask, well, who are these people? I thought this guy was a, highfalutin cop, professor, blah, 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 blah. No. All research is done joint. Just like law enforcement, the manpower, the fall, the shortage, that is joint. It's a community issue. It's problem-oriented policing from the community. It's got to be fixed in the community, the perception, the retention, the retainment, the hiring processes, the competition levels. I mean, you like food? Do you want to go to Bucky's Stardust Cheeseburger restaurant to get an Italian meal? No, you're not going to go to Bucky's. Well, that is completely awesome. See, it's always good to have people that are in the realm of care, hot beverages during Jack Frost took over the country. Yep, thank you. And that is absolutely amazing. Hot anti-frozen in coffee. As said, those academic researchers, personal experience, personal knowledge, excellent, outstanding. And we'll cover that here after we cover a few of these things. But let's kind of go deeper into the blue crisis. Now, when I say the blue crisis, I'm referring to 2021. Typically, a lot of people like to go back to 2020. And you'll hear a lot of people refer back to the pandemic. Oh, no. 2021. All right. During that thing called the pandemic, there were already plans. There were already shifts and moves. Things were happening. People were going to retire. There were already incentives. There were already reasons to quit and go contract work overseas for pay that was non-taxable. State Department, federal government, military contract, even those going back to the military. There were always reasons to go somewhere else. But 2021 to 2025, agencies totally across the United States, that's when the staffing historical crisis hit. Applicants plummeted, just dropped, kind of like having that hole in the boat. You're going to sink. It's just the direct opposite. You've got a hole in the system. It plummeted. Why? Resignation surged. Yeah. Political argument. Politics. Now always remember, politics is not what we talk about here, but in law enforcement, criminal justice, sociology, psychology that runs the gambit with law enforcement, it is a 3-tiered structure. It is a circle. It all works together. One aids and one creates the other. The resignation surge from 2021 to 2025, that increased. Not the recruitment, not the hiring, but that resignation, especially in the bigger cities. New York, Miami, New Orleans, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Chicago. Yeah, the resignation. We've got all the documentation, all the research, and we'll show you before we conclude the show here. Many points of culture were a factor too. All right. The anti-police sentiment. Defund the police, fund the police. Everybody remembers the defund the police, and then everybody remembers President Biden's first State of the Union. No, fund the police. Arguments, political. Now you have two entities arguing, one for and one against, but then retracting over and agreeing. That has a sociological impact on policing. The anti-police sentiment. The primary driver is society. Where do you think law enforcement or police come from? They come from society, not grown in a garden, not caught with, unicorns and sun rays and beams in a basket, come from society. Thus, that is why the selection and the validity pool of candidates is reducing. Sociological problems, constructed problems of society, creating sociological constructs. One of the new sociological construct now is someone that tries to apply for an agency does not meet the requirements. Can't be vetted. Can't pass a background check. Have an arrest history. Violent crime, narcotic crime. Come from a home that is embedded with crime. Questionable. Now, that's not saying that the person isn't a good person, but the investigation process and the intrusiveness of it, the majority of society is not one to go, they're not going to be willing to go through that because it's going to be a deep dig into your family, into your life. That is not that normal, stable aperture of life. Again, generalized shifts, the length, the hiring processes, the mental health challenges. Yeah, even through the hiring processes, you get it wrong. You're frustrated. You're angry. You get a email. You do not get an email, so you reach out to the angry. What's the holdup? What's the problem? You didn't submit this. This is a disqualifier. The anger, the emotion, the plague of applying for multiple agencies and getting multiple denials. Then suddenly it's an I quit. It's an I give up syndrome. It's the second place is first loser. You gave up. As long as you're not giving up, you're not losing. You're not failing. Keep pushing forward, one foot in front of the other. Solve the problem. Do not be part of the problem or the creator of the problem. Fix it. Reapply. There are other agencies out there. Another, and this is in this guy's professional opinion, the majority of society do not want to change. They do not want to relocate. They do not want to change location. They do not want to change lifestyle. Thus, it's the competition of who's willing to do it and who's willing not to do it. Those willing to do it, few and far between. Put it in the chat. Who's ready to go? Train, fight the selection pool, possibly for over a year, and be told, yep, you're relocated, you're reassigned. Oh, by the way, it is not where you wanted to go. No, you're going to some horrid place, in your opinion, that you would never go to. And even in the United States, there are horrid places that people do not want to go to. I've seen a few of them. What are some horrid places? I'm like rough places. Put it in the chat. Rough places that someone in the crisis of manpower, your opinion, not believe, think, I feel, or I saw it on CN Media book chat. Your opinion developed a location that would be difficult to convince people to go to. And police do social work, sociology graduates, experts, psychology. What about, practicing clinicians, psychiatrics, areas that people do not want to go. And you really believe that people will want to go there and make less money, have less of a personal life, long shift work, safety, risk of death, risk of confrontation and struggles with the mentally ill, and safety and risk of death? No, they're not going to want to go to those places. Ask yourself, would you? Let me see. Yeah, we're having weather issues. Being told YouTube is glitching sometimes. So let me check the actual what we've got going here for percentages on our machine, how much we're using. Let me drop it down. All right, I should have cleaned it up a little bit. We dropped it down some. Somebody give me a thumbs up for the audio and see if that got rid of the glitchiness on YouTube. I'm just going to let rumble on. I'm going to monitor YouTube. That's our primary stream feed is YouTube. So let's get back to the actual topic. The snapshot, law enforcement, the manpower, the hurt, the role model. It's no longer a hypothetical argument. You're going to hear people argue all day long. They're not hurting the agencies or a lot of people applying. Well, you see hundreds of officers out there in one location. You got hundreds and thousands being sent. No, that is not that is not a constructual argument with credibility, validity, or reliability. When that is being argued, it is a specific function, a specific job of a specific entity in a location. Over 70% of agencies in the United States reported that recruitment has become more difficult over the course of 5 years. And when I say 70% of agencies, it's not just big city agencies. You're looking at smaller agencies, counties, state agencies, state investigative agencies, departments of public safety, even agencies that recruit criminal justice professionals that are dual trained. CJ and sociology, CJ and psychology, dual ones, the ones that are target venues. Recruitment is down. Major cities are showing significant shortfalls. San Francisco, Phoenix. That was just on the media 4 days ago. Keep in mind, it's the media. But if it's going to hit the media, there's something that has caught someone's attention so that it's going to be put on the primetime news, focused on a debate in a live stream or a podcast. Something brought attention to society. The number of applicants for the position, as we talked about before, it has decreased over 40% since 2019. Over 40%. And keep this in mind. You're wondering, how is this guy saying all of this with credibility and validity? Because I have assistant researchers and everything is actually released. While we're there, let's take a gander at that. Remember, the chats are open. Now, up top, the episode research data, it is downloadable. Dr. Mike G, Facebook, there's a Media Fire series. It's there, all the links. So whenever we have a live feed, we're going to have information up for people to download. An example would be, for this actual episode, we have research and we have a PDF version of the PowerPoint for the data. And let's kind of shift the screen here a little bit so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. A PowerPoint. Now keep in mind, everything's, attributed to the actual researchers, those that actually did the work. Yes, I do the work, but they do the majority of the work as research because it's a equal shared. not necessarily peer reviewed an equal level, but when you're about to graduate a university and have a degree in your hand, and you're going to be working with people that are at your level, at your education level, at your experience level, your peers, you've got to know how to work together. So what we do is we take all of our information, we combine it, we condense it down, and we turn it into PowerPoints. We turn it into PDFs for display. These things are free to use, but keep this in mind. Attribute it when you're using it. I am sure, 100% sure, no one's going to steal it. No one's going to commit, I don't know, that form of plagiarism. Yeah, claiming it's yours when it can be proven that it is not. But you can use it, cite it, attribute it back, even use the actual correct citation and attribution for the sources that these researchers used. The exodus, the general shift, the competition, the struggles, the modernization of recruitment, things that we've talked about. The snapshot, 88%, all right, 88% of agencies in the United States report longer response times. Why? The shortage. No one wants to be in law enforcement. Even for the officers that you do have in the agency, think of shift change. Think of the units, the vehicles. While you have a example would be a shift of 100 officers out in a specific region of a large city, how many of those 100 officers are responding, still on a call? Think about that. The percentages decrease, and then officers are waiting at a precinct or a station for the shift change for an available unit. Delays in time. You're only going to get the money for units and equipment when you can back the need for dissemination of labor and manpower accountability and numeric percentage count. Where are you going to get the money from? A donator? You're going to grow it in the garden like one would think the cops are grown in? No. It comes from local government. It comes from federal government, state government. That money has to be accounted for. That money is itemized. Who's getting it? Where? Think of EMA. Think of an emergency management association. Think of larger cities that get a stockpile of money for the year, the new year, 2026. The counties that surround those actual large cities, those small suburbs that are, included in the response venue, fire districts, police districts, metroized. Nashville, Tennessee would be one. Chicago would be one. Larger cities where multiple agencies are metroized into a bigger bigger umbrella or blanket because of the funding, the percentage, the manpower, the money. Where's it going to go? 73% of agencies in the United States, and this is all research-based, believe me, researched with credibility and validity, 73%, 73, eliminating specialized units. Now, we're not talking about questionable specialized units that hit the media, like Memphis and Scorpion. We're not talking about that, all right? Not the TV show with the genius investigators, but we're talking about the Memphis Police Department, modeled after another failed special entity in Atlanta, developed in another, is still under DOJ review. Still. Trust me. Trust me. Isn't that right, Gonzo? Trust me. It is there. Under review still. Specialized units. School resource officers. Agencies don't have the money. More schools, more students than officers. But society still needs the officers. There's the struggle. Which is more important? The student or society? Traffic divisions. Violent crime task forces. The majority of task forces you see now are not agency driven, specific driven. One agency. It's a combined effort. Multiple money, multiple agencies under one blanket name or umbrella. The majority and the largest federal agencies. FBI, DEA, ATF, just bigger agencies. See, Secret Service and U.S. Marshals too. Let's not leave them out. No, I don't want to leave them out. They'll come get their patches back from me. Yeah, we'll take that back. Thank you. Nope, I included it. 78% of U.S. agencies also report, 78%, the old hurt locker of non-qualified applicants. That's 78%. And that would be, to the math, 27,000 officers a year. Doing the math. And the maths are in the research that are on the Facebook page and the Media Fire download. Excuse me. As I said, getting over the winter snowflake, snowman death, Jack Frost cooties. 27,000 officer applicants a year. That's a large number. Think of being, I don't know, a business specializing in law enforcement equipment. How about a business that makes seats, specific seats, which law enforcement officers, cars, police cars in layman terms, some have specific seats. Yep, old stockies taken out and specific seats put in. Electronics, camera, retention, safety, everything else. Think of you being that agency, that company. Spent years, decades. Yeah. Now suddenly, the mass exodus. Those within the country that can't meet the application process. Those within society that have lost interest. Now you're going to suffer. 27,000 law enforcement officers to those that are in society as they defund, anti, pro, or, whatever it may be. That affects you. Even though you're anti-police or you're anti-specific side of the government that is pro-police. And believe me, there are people that are anti the government that are anti-police out there in the world. Those exist too, like Santa Claus and M&Ms. Imagine yourself being that business, and now you're suffering. Now you've got to close your doors because of a sociological construct of anti-police, negative venue, rhetoric, ideology, not ideology, and incident persuasion, sociological incident persuasion, things that happened in society that had a great influx in opinion, shift change. Martigas and Adams and Nix in 2022, for those of you that are researchers in this. I know about these three researchers, but I had one of my researchers kind of ship me this and said, hey, this is a great point to argue that 27,000 damage hit and the comparison of business. Sociological construct. Dangerously understaffed law enforcement agencies. 2022, the effect. George Floyd. Boom. That's the start of research. Here we go now. It's not a target or saying it's one person's fault. Society reacted in a specific way. Political venue. Partisanism, nonpartisanism, whatever side you're on, all sides reacted in a different way. And then the shift and the change. The derivative, negative aspect of sociological interpretation, constructs developed by sociological choice of legislative executor power. It affects law enforcement. It affects the community. It affects everyone. Put it in the chat. Who remembers something that, or just put it in a comment if you're watching this. Chat's a little slow. And, due to the information that I just got, it's probably because of the weather. Because Rumble and YouTube are glitchy. But we've been having a few problems with Rumble over the past week. Bad audio, bad reception, but then got a few things clarified. It wasn't just us. It was a few other thousand live streamers. Next, let's move on to some very detailed things. Very detailed. Now I'm going to throw out a few things that are research, related, that with entities that I know and, specific researchers that I know, that the assistant researchers for the show, right there up top, Blankenship, Hensley, and McDonald, found updates to things that were added to that EG that passed from 2020, 2021, 22, and then now in 2026, because it's released, because it was, released out, peer reviewed in 2025, credibility, validity, reliability to the past years to attribute growth in the research. So that's how it works. Skaggs, Russians, Rhodes, Charman, Holmes, applicant pool, quality of pool dropped, community trust and recruitment. Need to recruit more females. Cheers to that. I agree with it. Why? Not because it's a male-dominated career field, because of bone density and muscle structure and all that. No, that's not what I'm saying. you've got to have a specific target for a specific area in society. Think of this and be smart if you're watching this show. If you're working at a law enforcement agency for a big city and you have Chinatown, you do not want to send the fourth corner on the street guy named Bob from the Sticks who has a minimal expressive language and articulating ability of the English language. You don't want to send that person into Chinatown. And that would be a desperate hire, as an example, for an agency. But kind of a comical one, too. You don't want to send that person. You want to send somebody that is of descent, of culture, of subculture, can speak Chinese and or Mandarin, or an influx and or a dialect of a language in the area that is being represented, or multiple. Man, you'd be surprised how many times I've seen law enforcement in specific tasks or venue of task force or region or job or agency division that simply did not need to be there. Just didn't need to be there. Did not have the education for it, aptitude for it, discipline for it, cognitive ability, structure, dedication, core value. There for the step. There because it was better to be there than the division that they were in because it was problematic. Arguments, hierarchy, command staff, disagreements. Well, that's not your luxury. Society has the same issues with law enforcement. Others, and I just gave out some authors that, some of my assistant researchers, threw out there, and it's all good. All goods. I'm not going to go through this, but PERF, IACP, International, Chiefs of Police, BJA, the Bureau of Justice, Busaletto, 2021, urban retention cases for law enforcement that PERF uses, PERF surveys, police benevolence agencies, benevolence funds, all recording, massive loss, massive. And Griffin, 2024, for massive loss in law enforcement, retention, recruitment. Keep this in mind. This is academic. We do not review the news or political. Shifting back up, constant overtime destroyed the family. Yes. Well, when you're suffering loss and credible people to apply, you're losing officers to retirement. One's leaving going for better pay. Ones that have years of experience that are being offered those positions to leave and get better pay, more compensation, sign-on bonuses. Those younger officers, those younger criminal justice law enforcement professionals in the agency are now working tasked, double, overtime, shift, families, a wife, a husband, the kids, a soccer game. Can't go, got to miss it because you're on call every day. You're on call 2 weeks out of the month. Your shift is 12 hours, and you're still on call because of a shorthand for the shift that just took you over. Alpha shift is mine, just got off shift 12 hours. Well, Bravo shift's too short. Hey, I need you on call to respond to work a ward while the actual officers respond to whatever they have to respond to. You're on call now. When that phone goes off or that pager goes beep, beep, there is no, I don't like that person. Let me act like I didn't hear it or see it. That's your career. That's your job. Because you like the paycheck. You like the benefits. You like the med coverage. Yes, you like it. So you got to keep it. But it's tasking. It's stressful. No sleep. Mental health help. And this one's opinion, that's the biggest one. Mental health help. No one in law enforcement, let's be for real about this. All right. I got 35 years of military and law enforcement. I've seen one or two, invisible leprechauns. That's a joke. But I've seen some things happen to where they were stressful. I've actually had officers, criminal investigators, patrol, officers that were under me, command level and training level that were great officers. A year, a 2 year down the road, a critical incident happens and trauma. I've even had a few that committed suicide. Why? There's nothing there, mental help. Everyone's scared to open that mouth. Risk of employment, risk of being taken off the job, put somewhere, risk of termination, a threat to the agency, not society, but a threat to the agency. Why the agency? Lawsuit. Now I know, excuse me, there's a police chief or a sheriff or a special hierarchy upper echelon person that's going to hear this and see this and say, don't listen to this guy. Yep, it's the truth. 100%. Why do you think the PERS program, peer equivalent review for employment, PERS for law enforcement, was adopted by law enforcement? PERS program, to act as representative for mental health. Yes, it exists. The FBI was the lead tasking on that, for those of you that did not know. For those of you that had, or maybe still do have peer divisions or peer officers. A lot of people like to refer it to as the cozy kitty because of the PER or the PERF, perf, because perf does a lot. Yep, back to blue, shortage, police shortages, defund. Well, how many times did you hear on the media covering officers to where that had a psychological effect on them? Traumatic effect. Examples. You hear defund the police from one side of the government, then the government shifts and change, then the side of the government that was saying it is now saying, fund the police, disregard everything we said. Happens. That's one of those things that's a sociological construct. Law enforcement, criminal justice are supposed to keep that aspect of non-partisanism, bipartisanism, all of that out. Has nothing to do with the legislative word of law. That you are jurisdictionary review, right? Judiciary, first contact, boots on the ground. Things that society really isn't aware of. But those that do apply and get turned down, these are some of the arguments that they're confronted with. They're told. Why didn't we pick you? Well, in the survey, psychological exam, you had a negative percentile. I wonder why. Society, creates it. Low pay. Everyone hates you. Hard to pass. Yes, hard to pass. Now, you can argue different generations, right? Millennials, Xers, Gs, baby boomers, whatever it may be. There is truth to the sociological construct of a specific generation will not commit. An example would be the greatest generation. World War II, the beaches of Normandy, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. Look at those that were in country that were citizens of the European theater when the Americans arrived. Young, male and female, in the teens, committing to a country's cause, freedom. Everyone hates you. It's hard to do, hard to pass the academy. Go back to the beaches of Normandy and tell that 17-year-old whose mom and dad signed for them to go, that 18-year-old, that 19-year-old, that 20-year-old. It's going to be hard to do. High risk of injury. Possibly, death. Historical venue. Go talk to your grandparents. Not your parents. Go talk to your grandparents. They'll probably have a better venue of more data to give you. Plus life experience. Always sit down and have a conversation with a senior citizen. They will enlighten you and educate you real fast. Root causes. The world cloud. Yes, the world cloud. This is a great one. This was awesome. This one came from Chloe and Dylan. It was kind of a tie-in for the researchers here. The terms: moral, pay, media scrutiny, mandatory overtime, burnout, pensions, public distrust, and anti-police comment. The actual survey is not just the United States. It's globally, worldwide. An example now today, 2026. Turn on your super social media. Look at the conflict in England. Look at the conflict in France, the European theater, migration, immigrants, violence. Everyone says the police are part of the violence for supporting what one aspect of society is against. And it goes both ways. It's not just one way, it goes both ways. Proof is here in the United States. Minnesota. One sheriff says one negative thing about an entity, a federal entity. The clash. What do you think the argument's there? Now, the validity and the credibility is only as good as the scholars or the peer reviewers' investigation. But when it's put on the news worldwide and that one hierarchy of the entity is publicly saying it, yep, it's there. There's your social construct. The catastrophic shortage in larger cities. Rural, urban, it doesn't matter. You can argue it all day long. It's a catastrophic construct built by law enforcement itself. You can't argue that. For those of you that, know where to go look, you can understand, go look. Yes, she said it, meaning that one law enforcement, authoritative, higher echelon, right? Authoritarian. Why do you think nobody wants to go work there now? No one does. Diversity, the death spiral in diversity. We're not talking about dying people. We're talking about the diversity death spiral. Kind of like what I was talking about. You're not going to send somebody that cannot migrate, mingle, blend in with Chinatown to go police Chinatown. Why? An example would be the oldest organized crime organization in the world, the Triad. The Triad doesn't victimize other people. They don't victimize the white people, the orange people, the brown people. They victimize their own people. Why? Fear, retaliation. Because the Triad, embedded with an Asian culture, knows how to manipulate and cause disruption, fear, psychological manipulation. They know how to disrupt the culture. So you're not going to send someone into a specific culture that does not understand the true need of problem-oriented policing or community-oriented policing. And that means that's a lot of work. That's a lot of risk. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of loss of personal time. Yep, your dating life has just been shot down. Your social life gone. Society's not going to want to put that much effort, even to those that say they want to, work for their society, make their society a better place. Let me see. This is seen in a lot of industry. 1/3 of the workforce doing 100% of the work. Yep. It's the same way in law enforcement. It's the same way in any, CJ platform. It's the same way in, sociological platforms that, tie in with, psychology, especially the medical side. The medical side, being, yes, hospitalization. Because there are those that are certified medically that go to additional training to title themselves under preparation for presentation, that good term forensic, because of a discipline or specific practitionership skill backed by a scientific method that one would have to testify to. So that's another reason that society's, well, so-and-so is better, let them do it. It happens. It exists. There's only a few people in society that are going to take that step up to do the job that someone else is not willing to do. Much like in the chat, who is that? Greg Lane 7054. It exists. It happens in every aspect of professional practitioner skills in every job place. It happens in law enforcement too. So now you're getting the diversity death spiral. And when we say diversity, we're not totally locked in on inclusion of gender, race, religion. No, we're locked in on the death spiral of diversity of the practitioner, the review, the candidate. Once that person makes it through the actual rigorous over a year process to be out there certified, bona fide, stamped on both sides, to be that professional criminal justice imagery out there on the road, out there on the streets, being the first judiciary review of the legislative word of law that the executives, the top three, helped write. They're the ones out there doing it. Nobody else is out there doing it. How many times have all of you watching the show, or ones that will watch the show and put a comment, call the police? Is anybody called the police? Well, why are you asking it? If it's so important that you have to ask it, how come you're not calling and you've got a phone in your hand? Because it's too important for you to video and film it and make yourself like the target picture. The mirror test of imagery reality, the mismatch. Yes, the mirror test of image reality, the mismatch. Who in society is being placed into a law enforcement profession to where it's an image in the mirror? Look at me, I'm it. But as in the thread, the percentages don't match, because the one that is the image reality is not pulling the weight of the job. It's affecting the department. It's affecting the sociological construct, trait development, sociological growth, psychological aspect of self-perception and society's, perception on the law enforcement agency. No wonder you have falling manpower. No one wants to do it. That's why. Says a guy with the clinical skill, years of experience. Yeah, it's there. Still in it. Negative public perception, competition, private sector, more money. Who doesn't want to get more money? Come on. Go to the department, make $60,000, $70,000 a year, or go overseas on a contract because you got 5-6 years and make $200,000-$300,000 in tax free. Yes, no taxes. 30 days home. You get that break. General shift values. Nobody wants to work a long shift. Got to correct these things. Who wants to work a 12-hour shift? 4 days a week, 3 days a week, have 2 days off, 3 days off, knowing that that's not enough time to go do anything. You have to take vacation. But if your department's shorthanded, guess what? You're not going nowhere, Officer John. You're not going anywhere, Sergeant Stevens, Lieutenant or Commander Captain Cookie. No, we're short. Matter of fact, Captain Cookie with the 2 bars, get out there in the car and go patrol. Get out of the office. We're shorthanded. It's kind of like we don't need bosses. We need mentors and leaders. Anybody ever been out and seen all the cops laid up on the cars? Kick back, relaxed. Big social event. Society's there. The cops are chilled. The cops are kicked back on the car. Hey, one of the researchers, if you're out there, I'm not monitoring Rumble. See what's happening on Rumble because we had those glitches with YouTube and the fantastic weather. Not watching it. See if anything's shaking. Let me know. I know I got some of you guys here watching the show. Demanding. Last but not least, let's talk about the reality and why the fall of manpower is a real problem. Dissemination of labor, the construct of why would someone want to be the cops? Why would somebody want to go into a job that requires work-life imbalance? Yes. Weekend hours, burnout, stress, no guarantee of advancement. I want to go in. I want to be a detective. I want to be in this specialized unit. Guess what? Those that are in the detective division or specialized units, they're not going anywhere. They're there. Think of it this way. If you're Chief John and you ask Lieutenant Tommy to develop a new unit, do you think every boss, mentor, leader of a unit is going to give you their best person to develop a new unit? No, you're on your own. They will give you the worst of the stack out of their divisions so that you can go create the chief's requested new division. Now, long hours, moral dilemmas, public scrutiny, lack of departmental support, it's going to stack up against you. And yet alone, if you work for a larger agency, an example, St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, Miami, New York, an officer that works there, regardless of whatever division, whatever precinct, wherever they're at, 1 year of service is equal to 7 in some agencies with the amount of violence, response, what they see, what they witness, psychological trauma, memory, recall, lack of departmental response for need of the officer. It's just, it is what it is. This is not something you can just make up. And as I said, it's not something you can just make up. At the top, episode research, Dr. Mike Gurley, CJTV. It's right there. Send a friend request. We'll accept it. Download the data that's there. Download it. It's all in PDF form. Now, it's not like a big giant book, report. It's not like a big giant publication. It's for you to look, search, and go read for yourself. Your own peer review. The demanding nature, mental health trauma experience. That is part of the demanding nature. It's burnout, anxiety, depression, PTSD. What about suicide? I've personally had officers that I had a hand in training years after they were released. I'm talking years. So, after they're released and then something happens years later, it was a continuing, over time, developmental process. The academy doesn't change you. It doesn't change behavior. It gives you trained tools. But when you're separated for a year, even other agency shifts, and you have friends that you were, helped in training years down the road that took their own life because of trauma, exposure, mental health issues, the downfall or dilapidation of the agency that is standing by their officers. And just for a piece of information, go download it. One of my researchers probably have to hit me up with this because I got it listed. 2019, a study found that 26% of law enforcement officers screened for a mental illness condition were found per the DMS positive for a mental illness condition. And the experience was a 188 percentile critical life exposure event over time in their career. Now, that's all, systematic formula. It's all case review. It's all APA, American Psychological Association. But within the DMS, the aspect of you have to actually have structure. And this was a post-traumatic stress longitudinal study, which means it wasn't designed, it wasn't created just off of, a whim for a minute. It was over time. So I'm looking at it. It was a longitudinal, quasi-experimental design, longitudinal. Okay, great, fantastic. But you have to argue that design so that other peer review, can read it and attest there's some validity here. There's something to it. But that's kind of 26% of police officers, and this was in the United States, and 188% critical event outcome in T values and P values. That's pretty high. That is really high. That is not good. Not good. Now, to conclude this thing out, what's working? What do we got to do? The police takeaways, the law enforcement, the construct, the fall, dilapidation of the manpower. What do we need to do? Modernize benefits, healthcare, health, mental health. Yeah, that's number one. Think about what you're going to be seeing. Think about the stress, what's going to be taken away from you. And I, this guy with years of experience will be the first one to tell you that is not the number one. That is not the number one item of agenda for an agency. It is not. I'm just telling you. So those police chiefs and sheriffs and commanders and super space shuttle door gunners with chickens and roosters and coconuts and stars, I'm right. It's not the number one. The dollar bill in your agency and funding is number one. That's what it is. Because if there's no money, there's no dollar bill, there's no you, there's no agency. It's number one. No one is going to go work for that, regardless of what the actual value is, unless there's a reason. You have to have a mental illness to want to do this job. Yes, you do. You have to have one. I think they should put it in the actual application. What mental illness do you believe you had that qualifies you to do this job that would embellish your mental illness or create or aid in developing another perceived mental illness or identified mental illness? Rebranding police to the community, rebranding law enforcement. How would you rebrand it? How? The Lone Ranger? Tonto? How are you going to rebrand it? Will Smith? Bad Boys? How are you going to rebrand law enforcement? The professional, the ones that respond while everybody else is running away in fear because chaos has happened. Yeah. See it in the movies all the time. See it in real life too. How many active shooter incidents have all of you that are watching this or are going to watch this watched on your dum-dum boxes? Yeah, the dum-dum boxes are these things right here. Yep. How many of you watched? People run away. Those that are the trained professionals that just left a mental dilapidative incident that's creating mental health trauma. Now they're running to another one while society is anti-police running away. You got to put that into perspective. Everybody wants medical help, right? Even those that are anti-police and try to hurt police, they want medical help. You don't think law enforcement have family that are in the medical field? You don't think law enforcement have family that are firefighters, emergency medical response, and then they hear that this person tried to harm a law enforcement officer and are against, but they did harm a law enforcement officer. Now they want help. Society's construct. Emotional damage that affects the law enforcement officer after they go home, even though they get injured. Now, I'm not going to lie. I've been injured a lot of times in the hospital, in the trauma center. Yeah. Wasn't fun. Didn't help, but you take it home with you. And when I say you take it home, it's not you taking it home and talking about it and opening up Pandora's box like a jack in a wind-up box. You take it home with you because you can't fly around the world and make it go away and not happen because your family knows. They know now there's something that happened to you that can be a trigger for you to recall something that was episodically negative and cause a problem in the family structure. Congratulations. Now, home, the juggle, just got worse. Now you got to go back to work. And you've got to juggle that because what do you think the reality is at the department? It's the same way. The rebranding, the tech, the brain. Congratulations, law enforcement. You're going to continue having difficult days stocking up the boots with people because of society. You're going to have to rebrand. Law enforcement's got to rebrand. And I'm the 100% pro blue, pro every tool and clinician item that you can get your hands on for law enforcement, for tools, cars, fast, go fast, make that, all of it, pro, 100%. Yay, go, Scooby-Doo in a fast car. But you're going to have to rebrand something at some point in time because you're losing the numbers. Nobody wants to do it. And federal agencies, and I'm just going to be 100% blunt here too, I'm pro law enforcement. I'm not political, but I'm 100% pro law enforcement being used at the judiciary review correctly under a hierarchy, under a command structure of legislative law designed and developed by the executive body. Now, when you cross-transfer officers into your agency, 6 weeks is not enough time. I don't care what they did. I don't care if it was Superman and Superman's transferring into the junior chess club. Superman was a tough guy, strength, and nobody said Superman was a genius at chess, the game. Just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're going to be good at another. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, not enough time. I don't care who you are. Challenge me on that. Anybody out there in that political spectrum, anybody out there in that law enforcement spectrum that can say a bonus, a lateral shift, and we're going to put somebody through this amount of training, and yet with the things that I've seen over time here in the past year, and I'm not talking about one agency. Everybody thinks it's going to be one agency. No, it's multiple agencies, multiple aspects in society to where these agencies are so dilapidated in manpower that they're reaching out. What does Austin, Texas do? What does Dallas, Texas do? Reach out. St. Louis, Memphis, New Orleans, 50,000. 80,000, 70,000, specific time, specific rank, education, pay, immediate, transfer, even relocation assist to get more officers. Why do you think these officers are hurting in larger cities? Rural areas. Why do you think larger cities are losing their officers to the rural areas? The officers in the larger cities do not want to experience that. I've been here 1 year and I've worked and I've gotten all of the reward, positive and negative, of being here 7 to 8 years. It's a rebranding, and internal and external. The call to action to close this out for everyone. Legislators. Yeah, those ones that argue the executive, the legislators, they write the word of legislative law. Hey. Flexible. The benefits. What are the real benefits that the executive body gives society to become law enforcement? The turnover, intention, the fall. Does the agency have your back? Does your legislative body have your back? You'll be surprised how many law enforcement officers in society will not say publicly that there's that fear. It exists. I've seen it. I've heard it. It exists. It exists now in society today from agencies, especially when you have law enforcement agencies running words on media, the news, that are negative of another law enforcement agency and response. Yep. Adopt evidence-based retention toolkits. I agree with that too. Retention. We're not talking, evidence-based retention for case. We're talking about evidence-based retention for keeping the people, a toolkit. Why would you give someone outside of greed of money? Yes, outside of greed of money, a reason to leave your agency. I have seen those police chiefs. I have seen those sheriffs. I've seen those assistant chiefs, chief deputies that were less than acceptable. In layman terms, should not be there. And I left those agencies, went to other ones, had a great career because ones did not need to be there because the retention toolkit. And don't think I was the only one. It happens in all agencies, U.S.-wide and worldwide. The toolkits, the education, the experience, the mentorship, the leadership, it's not there. So now, adopting the evidence-based retention toolkit doesn't exist. Why would someone want to leave your agency? Why? You're not paying attention. Academia, the expanded longitudinal cognitive ability of the officer. Grow, depth, the life course, the study, the skills, the retention toolkit, the incentive to be there and benefit the agency through education, cognitive ability, retention of knowledge, practitionership. It's kind of like the word forensics. Everybody thinks forensics has something to do with a science wizard in a TV show. No, forensics is just preparation for presentation. That's all it is. Using those that are trained forensically to aid law enforcement officers or agencies in investigations in a specific career field, taking their career field and the needs of law enforcement and presenting it in a courtroom, presenting it for articulative review by a jury, judge, argument between lawyers in a court. Preparation for presentation. Where's the toolkit in that for society? Hollywood, the media. Watch CSI Miami. Watch CSI Las Vegas. Watch the guy move his glasses and go chase some guy down and get shot and shoot at him and save the world from a stick of dynamite that's going to take out a spaceship. No, it doesn't work that way. Community. Co-designed public safety, clear way, or career paths. Yeah, one would think that we have that gap due to Explorer programs. But the Explorer programs in the United States really are suffering, to be honest with you. A lot of you in agencies, some of the Explorer programs are good. Cadet programs, they're good. But they're falling. They're suffering. The growth. Why? Society. Sociological. Where's the importance? Teaching children core values, responsibility to society. Where's that? Yep, tomorrow, the 3-point agenda, and then we're going to close out after I say a few things in gratitude to some aid and some assistance. Number 1, measure the heartbeat quarterly, meaning society. Do not make the healthy tenure of society the problem. Law enforcement agencies are the number 1 enemy to themselves. Law enforcement agencies are the healthy, non-quarterly backbreaker to themselves and society. Why? Police chiefs, sheriffs, those are the hierarchy. The information is given out. It's non-productive. The majority of the time, it's argumentative, or it's, look at me, what we're going to do. Coming to this place, we're going to, somebody's going to be held accountable. We're going to enforce the law. Yeah, we know that already. We got it. We understand. How are you going to correct the community-oriented policing? How are you going to correct and locate the problem-oriented policing that society has a problem disclosing to you because society doesn't trust you? Or are you going to send Bob into Chinatown and try to get a confession out of the triad boss? You're going to fail. Measure the heartbeat of society quarterly. Quarterly. I didn't say every week, every day. Federal grants, retention outcomes. Yeah, that's something I kind of steered away from in research a lot because the grants are very subjective. But when you go to a 3-point angle, it has validity. The numbers. Where's the money going? You're getting grant money, but does the head honcho of a division need all the Superfly stuff? All the kit, all the gear, all the tools? No. Do we need to send Commander Jones, who's over 2 divisions, to a specialty school? No. Commander Jones is going to come back, eat hot dogs, get overweight, sit at the desk, and be the boss guy, not the mentor and the leadership, while they go to all the schools, get the money, get the equipment, and look good so that they can say, hey, look at me, I'm this. I'm the boss. I'm the hierarchy. No one wants to work for a donut in law enforcement. Period. Done. Over. I'm not a donut. I'm retired, military and law enforcement. No one wants to do that. Period. That is the grant problem. The money that comes in, the asset that comes in, it's being improperly used, and the officers know it. It causes dissension, and it creates that measurement of retention. Why do you want to leave? Because you're not really supporting your officers in the divisions that need the money, need the equipment, the training, the backup, the assist, the skill, and the continued follow-on training to keep up with society's continued following development of construct, be it positive or negative. Money's not there. Oh, the money's there. Yeah, somebody's not doing a heartbeat quarterly review of the money and where it's going and how it's being applied in the agency. Yep, I've seen it. Why does a sheriff need to ride around in a $100,000 truck? Somebody answer that for me. An elected person. Now, a sheriff can be certified bona fide law enforcement with tons of experience. Tons. Why do you need to ride around in a giant truck that's, 180,000, 150? I mean, fully loaded to the kit. I mean, the full deck. Ford Monster Death Police Truck from Police Monster Death Truck Ford Hell. Why does that guy have to be in that when you could be out there with somebody else who needs it? Or why do you need that truck in the first place when you could get possibly 2 more cars that would be out there? You're not doing the quarterly heartbeat with the community, law enforcement officers in there, and the money that's coming in through TIE, state, federal funding, it's being misused, misrepresented. Yep, and I'll say this, like ICE, they're great. Why? They're a law enforcement agency. I didn't say anything else other than they're a law enforcement agency. You spend a lot of money on cheap gear. Yeah. Cheap gear, garbage. That's just my call. Cheap garbage. From what I've seen in real life, face to face, and on the cool screen, cheap gear. Junk. Next, the last out of the 3-point agenda for retention. And I hope everybody's enjoying this. I'm enjoying it. I'll enjoy if you watch and comment. The 2-page annual workforce health report. Now, that's something I like to call the conundrum of paperwork. The 2-page, the officers and the transparency result from the officers to the public. The 2-page, the higher upper echelon, the bosses, the kingpins of the department, the agencies, commanders, the this, the that, the chickens, the stars, the coconuts, the leaves, the trees, the monkeys with horns that say, here come the hallelujah one with wings that are the bosses. Yeah, those people and the ones that are going to be truly transparent that will tell you the retention outcome of the money, the 3-point agenda of the lack of the heartbeat quarterly to the agency, then to society. That workforce health report from the ones that are on the ground, knowing what's going on upstairs in the 2nd floor, 12th floor, 13th, 15th floor, everybody knows what I'm talking about. The higher echelon, the higher you go, the higher your floor is. You get to use the elevator versus taking the stairs. You guys know what I'm talking about. You've seen it in real life, or you've seen it on TV. Where does that health report or that disclosure come from? Do you really trust them? They work for a political entity. Well, the police chief of so-and-so is out here with the mayor discussing. Yeah, do you really think that police chief is really disclosing what the police chief really wants to disclose? That's something for you to argue. Think about the police chief and everything down, the full structure. Yeah, that's part of the workforce health report. The 2-page. The grant, the tie, the retention, the outcome, the hiring, the numbers, the reward churn for the funding. Who's getting what? Who's getting trained? Where's the advancement? Why be here? Why? It's police chief's fault. It's the sheriff's fault. It's the mayor's fault. It's everybody in the upper echelon. And I'm being 100% straight with you. 100%. And those of you that are out there in society, even those that are cops, federal too, will say, yep, that's 100% correct. Yep, this guy is on point. Yep, it's the upper tier. Challenge your upper echelon for that workforce 2-page health report, allowing the hierarchy and the non-hierarchy to disseminate that information to society. What is the real outcome of the agency? Is it worth being here? Is it driven by, policy? Is it driven by government, politics, partisan, nonpartisan? Is it driven by problem-oriented policing? Community-oriented policing? Are we really having a diverse tenure track of attention on where the diversity is? The problem areas is the diversity, the needs of specific communities in the community as a whole. Yeah, that's that work health report. You may not like what you get, upper echelon. One's in charge of the money and the measure of the quarterly heartbeat. You may not like it. Well, as we always do, we thank you for being here. And again, I would like to thank Yabro Music for this mic. So, G, if you're out there, Tony G, Man, thanks. I love this thing. It's like talking to a snowman petting a kitty. I don't have to yell at it. It is awesome. And I'll throw that up there. Again, these are our research assistants, and I'm going to change out to, thanks for the mic, Tony. I like it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that forever because I have no need for it. That is not the sponsor of the show, but I will give out gratitude for those that assist the show and make the show better. And remember, everything is at Facebook. Dr. Mike Gurley, CJTV, all information. It gets uploaded, as quick as we can get it, but we have an episode coming Wednesday night, and we have an episode coming Friday night at 7 o'clock each night, all right? Due to the snow, IT, weather, we kind of got off track a little bit, and this guy being, infected with, Frosty's, evil disease of snow and head stuffiness, we still pressed on, but we're going to do 3 shows this week, and then Monday of next week, which would be by calendar. Let me open this up real quick. That would be the 2nd. We will be back on course from Mondays at 2 o'clock, Fridays at 7. That is Central Standard Time. We're also at Facebook, YouTube, obviously, right here at the lower screen, and on Rumble. We try to monitor as much as we can, but it's a few-person show. We're on X2 Live, so those that watch, those that actually enjoy the show, hit a subscribe, hit a thumbs up, help us get it out there. This show is not monetized. There's no money being made by this show whatsoever. We do this for students, academic growth, developing scholars, and the community. Something like a community-oriented policing, right? Yeah, that workforce heartbeat, right? That heartbeat report, that quarterly thing. Got to give it to the community, too. So if you got any questions, email me, Dr. Mike Gurley, well, Dr. Mike Lee G, that's me, gmail.com. Comments, place them. And again, my researchers, I'll leave this up real quick. That's their email too. Anyone that's a university, anyone that's a developing scholar, if you see this and you have an interest, please, these assistant researchers, take a snapshot of this and give them an email. Give them an email. And on Facebook and on X, we've got a GoFundMe. It's for support students fall 2026 semester. We've got a $3,000 goal, and this is monitored and, so to say, administrated by multiple people, and it will be done live when we do it, so that you see that it's really going to a student, and we keep it progressive. Criminology, sociology, or psychology. Take your phone, scan this. There are links on X, links on Facebook as well. That's why, right up here, they're kind of even with each other. That's why. Kind of help us out. It goes toward a good cause. That would be academic endeavored learning. CJ, psychology, sociology. And yes, there is a competition for those that want to jump into it. And we will release more about that as the semester goes. We're going to keep this going in the 2026 spring semester, and then we will launch it in the fall. Again, without further ado, thanks for watching. Hit like, subscribe. If you need anything, reach out to us. And all the information for sources and the YouTube information and the emails for the researchers. Have a good night.